Close allies during the Revolutionary War, Indian chiefs Buchan-Gehalis, a Lenape, and Blue Jacket, a Shawnee, remained sympathetic to British designs on the new republic. Killbuck, Captain Pipe, and Big Cat also wielded influence among mostly the Lenape. They maneuvered their followers during what became the Northwest Indian Wars. Another early native fighter of the encroaching settlers after the Revolutionary War was Little Turtle, a Miami chief. First an enemy and then a friend. George Washington put General Arthur St. Clair, governor of the Northwest Territory, in charge of a large army to dispel the Indian terrorism across the region. Washington at the same time conceded that Little Turtle was a great leader, that his minions, quote, proved more than once that they will fight with bravery. He also warned the army to be particularly wary of, quote, surprise, a trait well executed by many native groups. St. Clair did not heed the warning and was defeated by ambush. Fighting St. Clair's brave but poorly trained soldiers, the Indian Captain Pipe stated that his arm became, quote, weary of the work of killing white soldiers. General Richard Butler, wounded and propped against a tree, was eventually scalped. By legend, his heart was then divided up among tribal leaders. It was Little Turtle who planned the surprise, against the advice of all the other chiefs, and who merits the fame of the awful day. According to William Dean Howell's account in 1897 from Stories of Ohio, I quote, "To the Americans who saw him then, he was a sullen and gloomy giant who fought with his men throughout the battle, arrayed in the conspicuous splendor of a great war chief. with silver ornaments dangling from his nose and ears. Hardly less terrible than the figure of this magnificent butcher is that of the Chickasaw warrior who accompanied the American army to glut the hate of his nation for the northern tribesmen. When the fight began, he said he would not stand for the Shawnees to shoot him down like a wild pigeon, and he left the ranks and took to a fallen log, where he fired with unfailing aim. But he could not be kept from leaving it to scalp the other Indians as he shot them, and his own turn to be shot and scalped came at last. Some 600 casualties were recorded. The tattered remnant was replaced by another led by General Mad Anthony Wayne, who eventually brought Little Turtle and his bands to defeat at Maumee Springs and Fallen Timbers. The Native American forces there, numbering about 1,500, comprised Blue Jackets, Shawnees, Delawares led by Buchan-Chehalis, Miamis led by Little Turtle, Wyandots led by Tarhe and Roundhead, Ojibwas, Odawa led by Igushawa, Potawatomi led by Little Otter, Mingos, plus a small detachment of Mohawks, and a British company of Canadian militiamen disguised as natives under the command of William Caldwell. Little Turtle apparently saw defeat coming, but loyal to his calling, joined his many Confederates who mounted a line of warriors extending more than a mile along a scramble of trees downed by wind and tree cutting, i.e. the name Fallen Timbers. The gathering at the fallen tree line helped foil any attempts by the cavalry to join battle. But the Indians were driven back. Little Turtle, bowed in defeat, ended up giving his assent to the Treaty of Greenville, signed by 12 tribes, and thereby allowing the cession of large chunks of Indiana and Michigan in return for $20,000 and annual allowance of $10,000. Years after the so-called Battle of Fallen Timbers, a warrior recalled that Little Turtle had warned that the Great Spirit would hide in a cloud if they did not make peace with General Wayne. It was a rainy day when the preordained, fruitless skirmishes began. Now reconciled with the Americans, Little Turtle was provided a home on the Eel River, near the Wabash River, and Fort Wayne. During a visit to Philadelphia in 1797, a French scholar reportedly asked the chief why he didn't come to live there in Philly. Chief Little Turtle answered tellingly, quote, "I admit that on the whole you have the advantage over us, but here I am deaf and dumb. I do not talk your language. I can neither hear nor make myself heard. When I walk through the streets, I see every person in his shop employed at something. One makes shoes, another makes hats, a third sells cloth, and everyone lives by his labor. I say to myself, which of all these things can you do? Not one. I can make a bow and arrow, catch fish, kill game, and go to war. But none of this is of any good here. To learn what is done here would require a long time. Old age comes on. I should be a piece of furniture, useless to my nation.
useless to the whites and useless to myself. I must return to my own country.
Among the notable white men among the Fallen Timbers combatants were William Clark, who co-led the Lewis and Clark expedition, and William Henry Harrison, the 9th President of the U.S. Chief Tecumseh, who watched his older brother die in battle, would later organize a new Indian Confederacy to oppose American Indian removals. Other various native leaders like Red Jacket, a Seneca of the Wolf tribe, and Painted Pole, and the Mohawk seer Kukuchi, sparred over whether peace or war was the clearest path to survival of the Indian way of life. As to the Treaty of Greenville, 1795, Major General Wayne promised the U.S. would honor all Indian claims, quote,
northward of the river Ohio, eastward of the Mississippi, and eastward and southward of the Great Lakes, and the waters uniting them.
Moreover, quote,
the Indian tribes who have a right to these lands are to enjoy them so long as they please without any molestation from the United States. But when those tribes shall be disposed to sell their lands, or any part of them, they're to be sold only to the United States. And until such sale, the United States will protect all the said Indian tribes against all citizens of the United States and against all other white persons who intrude upon the same, and the said Indian tribes again acknowledge themselves to be under the protection of the said United States and no other power whatsoever. Unquote.
Such promises were made to be broken. The treaty itself amounted to a massive cession of nearly half the state of Ohio.